Released in 2001, Jak and Daxter is an incredible PlayStation 2 game, featuring a mutant and Ottsel pair traveling together through hubs and bosses in action-adventure style gameplay. The game is cemented in history due to it being one of, if not the first, video game with the unique aspect of essentially having no loading times. Jak and Daxter has tons of outstanding and memorable highlights within the game, with each area standing out from each other in their own specially themed and colorful way, and today I want to dive into a level that I think is close to most people's hearts, and that level is Sentinel Beach. Sentinel Beach is located to the left of the main hub area called Sandover Village. You can access this hub after completing the tutorial stage Geyser Rock, which leads you to a sandy path directing you through 3 large arches. Upon entering, you're met with a few blobs of blue eco, which attracts items for a short period of time, including precursor orbs, scout flies, and health, and also grants Jak faster speed for the duration of the eco, indicated by this timer on the bottom right. After gathering the first round of items, you are welcomed with the first lurker of the level. Lurkers are what pretty much all of the monsters are called in-game. Keep walking and you'll meet a couple sandworms buried underneath the surface that you can easily get rid of. Then after a few more steps, the entirety of Sentinel Beach is revealed in all of its coastal glory. If Jak and Daxter does one thing right, it's level design, and it does an amazing job at unfolding a level's full aesthetic right at the perfect time. Not every level is designed as such, as some levels follow a more linear path, which I may cover in future videos. But Sentinel Beach has a charm I can only try to explain, and I feel is one of the most memorable areas in the game. At first glance, we can see a few things going on in this vast amount of space. A massive tower overlooking the beach, giant precursor golems ingrained in the rocky walls, and this damn bird. After getting absolutely obliterated by one of the bombs being shot from the tower,
say goodnight, Jak!
We're finally at our first Sentinel power cell. There are a total of 8 cells in this stage, including the one for gathering 7 scout flies, which is a power cell included in each level. I won't necessarily be naming the cells themselves, as this isn't really meant to be a walkthrough, but instead a look back on sentimental level design. From the first cell, we move on up the platforms onto the grassy hills, which I like to refer to as the first half of the level. There are some really special things going on here, and as we progress, we're introduced to these adorable Poochiena type lurkers, which are probably named Princess, and I swear they don't bite. Crossing the bridge following the waterfall, more parts of the level are exposed. We can see tall green eco-harvesters, as Samos the Green Sage likes to call them, and another path of platforms that lead to one of the most loved and cherished characters in the game. What? No, not Bird Lady. I'm talking about Flut Flut. We get our first look at this majestic creature in a short cutscene after dropping the egg and cracking it open, in which this 4-foot tall blue bird mistakenly thinks 2.8-foot tall Daxter is its mother.
No! Look, isn't that cute? It thinks you're its mama.
Ah! I'm not your mom! You see any feathers here?
Flut Flut's design was meant to be a combination of an ostrich and a hummingbird, which I think they perfectly captured the essence of. Unfortunately, we're unable to use Flut Flut during this level, but we might revisit this beautiful being in a different video. After gathering some scout flies, orbs, and green eco in these treasure chest looking health boxes, we can move right along to the second half of the level on the sand, and are able to explore the reason this level exists in the first place. Along the coast reside 3 sentinels overlooking the ocean. One of the sentinels is shattered at the top, which I'm admittedly unsure the reason of. Interestingly, this exact sentinel is also broken in the concept art for the level. which makes me believe that there was some intentional reason for doing so, but as of right now, I have no idea why. Now, the other sides of the Sentinels facing the ocean have a fascinating design. Despite one being broken, we can see the remaining remnants of the structure lying on the sands below, in which the pieces pretty much correspond to the other completed Sentinels. If we take a closer look at the others, we can point out exact details. A stone pillar in between two spheres with intricate designs crafted around them. If you zoom in, the design appears to show swirls with a symbol in between, resembling the Oracle in other levels, for example, Sandover Village. The Oracle is a precursor statue, which are statues left behind by the precursors themselves, who are the deities that created their world and all the eco within it. The symbol also resembles the precursor robot, which is the final boss of the game. The addition of this symbol could potentially be a prophecy, foreshadowing the events to come for our main duo. These structures as a whole also bear a striking resemblance to their precursor counterparts cemented into the rocky wall behind them. Bug-like eyes with long snouts, carved and decorated with similar hieroglyphic-like designs. A sentinel is defined as a person or guard whose job is to stand watch. My honest guess is that these aren't just stones, but ancient precursor statues whose sole purpose was to keep guard, which would make sense given the front-facing positioning toward the open sea. I believe the precursors used these structures to take physical form and to stand sentinel to protect their world. But that's just a theory. After exploring these sentinels and harassing these seagulls, which eventually leads to a big avalanche and a power cell, we spot a grotto with a few orbs and a mechanism that you can uppercut to raise to allow for easier access to the items on the platform directly above. Then we can move on to the final undiscovered spots. We see 3 lanky platforms ahead of us, in which we need blue eco to access. The blue eco vent is actually unlocked after finding the blue vent switch in Forbidden Jungle, which we haven't covered yet, so I'm just gonna go ahead and give myself the power cell for it in debug mode. Touching this vent will fill our eco gauge to 100, and we have ample time to jump around and free fall around the platforms. The final destination for the blue eco is the tower. The tower has 2 lurkers called Babics, and they're revealed as the menaces responsible for firing these cannonball, bag-shaped things onto the beach. After demolishing the enemies, we can gather their power cell and start firing projectiles onto the beach ourselves to destroy the crates with precursor orbs inside of them. Orbs also surround the inner parts of the water, including a small secret area underneath the waterfall. And that's it. There's actually no more of the level, and Jak and Daxter saved their world and freed the homies. Is what I would say if this stupid pelican didn't exist. Our last part of the level deals with this bird. This guy was the bane of 7-year-old me's existence, and I never forgot the hell he put me through. Hitting this pelican activates a small cutscene in which it spits a power cell out of its mouth, and immediately flies over to recover it.
Quick! We have to get to the power cell before the pelican scoops it up again!
We then have a measly 18 seconds to retrieve it before the pelican does. If you're unable to reach him in time, which happens to a lot of people in their first playthroughs, the pelican obnoxiously snatches the power cell back up and returns to its nest. Everyone had their own different route to beat the bird to the finish, and this was the real challenge of the game as a whole. But with this power cell completed, Sentinel Beach is fully discovered and we can officially move on to a little section about exploits. There are a few main movement techniques that players use to progress faster. When I first started speedrunning the game and learning about how fast it was to chain roll jumps, I also learned about movement tech called a boosted uppercut, or a boosted for short. A boosted takes advantage of this single value in the code, and without it, boosteds would cease to exist. A boosted uppercut works by slowly walking off a ledge and then doing an uppercut by pressing square, then X, followed by pressing circle to spin, which allows for even further distance. Sentinel objectively has the best spot in the game to practice boosteds. Right in the middle of the level, there's a gap in between two ledges that is the perfect distance to practice this movement, and if you happen to fail it, which happens quite often when first starting out, you can easily access the ledges by climbing up the steps. Boosted uppercuts are one of, if not the most important movement tech of all Jak speedruns, and can be extremely helpful for casual players who are trying to get to hard to reach places, without going too fast of course. The tower in Sentinel is intended to be reached by channeling blue eco and jumping across the tall platforms all the way to the top where the cannon is. Many years ago, players found a way around this by simply swimming to the rocks on the left side of the tower, high jumping onto the ledge with this circular window, and then repeatedly jumping again into this invisible platform and maneuvering around the window, which allows you to reach the top with ease. This lets you skip having to return to Sentinel after being forced to head over to Forbidden Jungle to unlock all blue eco vents. It also allows you to commit a heinous act to an unsuspecting vertebrate. My favorite exploit in this level involves the cannon and the lovely pelican. As we know, once we activate the pelican's first cutscene, it returns to its nest, holding one of the 8 power cells we need to 100% the game. Once we get that cutscene, we can climb the tower and proceed to commit one of the most terrible injustices to a character in-game. While it's resting in its nest, we can actually shoot the pelican and blow him to smithereens, good old-fashioned pirate style. And I know you might be thinking, Kana, I don't want to destroy an innocent bird's life. He probably has a family. And all I have to say is, you would do it too for a chick. When coming up for video ideas for Jak and Daxter, Sentinel Beach was the first level that popped into my head, and I think that's the case for many others when reminiscing about the game. It's one of the first levels you stumble upon in your journey, and provides a calm and more relaxing aesthetic compared to the other individual levels in the first hub. Jak and Daxter runs on a day and night cycle, taking 24 minutes to complete one full day in-game. Sentinel Beach was one of the best spots to take advantage of the beautiful sunsets the sky has to offer. The Precursor statues in the cliffs and the 3 great Sentinels were enigmas to us, and I'm sure when the game came out, none of us even knew what the word Sentinel meant. The visuals are accompanied by a soothing tropical song that adds to the immersive ambience, along with other distinct sounds we hear when exploring. Chirps in tandem from the seagulls we chase, splashing while prancing along the true blue shore, and the crunchy steps as Jak races across the shell-riddled sand. The waterfall can be constantly heard in the distance, roaring away into the ocean, and when we look out into that ocean, we can catch a glimpse of 2 other levels, one that we've already explored when starting a fresh save file, and another mysteriously misty, islandy level of some sort. When first starting the game, the voyage ahead of you truly starts in Sentinel Beach. It's the first place Samos tells you to head over to in an earlier cutscene, and gives a gratifying peek of what's to come.
Why don't you make yourself useful? My darn green eco-collectors are clogged up again. Head out to the far side of the beach and clear them out, why don't you? Follow the lamps. They'll take you right there.
It's adored by many and remembered by a great deal of gamers as one of their favorites as kids, and still one of the most talked about levels today. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. A lot different from my first video, but I really enjoyed making this one and taking a look back on a game that is very close to my heart. I wanted to give a sort of retrospective vibe, as along the way I've lost my appreciation for just how unique and truly amazing this game is. I hope this has also revived that love for at least one of you out there. Once again, see you later, partners.